thanks for those generous. I'd like to take this opportunity. It's been great being here since May. Very short fellowship. I leave end of July, but I've had such a great time here at the Carson Center. So I'd like to thank the directors, Christoph and Helmut, and all my fellows in the Carson Center for all their support. The student interns who've been doing such a great job of everything, and everybody who's made this presentation possible. So thanks for giving me this opportunity. And it's just going to be a story on, that's why it's called Under Another Sky, a tale from Rajasthan. So story, basically my PhD was in American literature, but I've been living in Jodhpur for the last, and I'm in this community which is called, which is what the story is about, from last summer. So it's a very recent sort of interaction. I've been with them since last May. We've done, we sort of worked together, but from experience. Go on to the presentation. So that's called Under the Sky. Turbans, a place where more fairs and festivals are celebrated than there are days in a year. But it's also harsh, hostile, and merciless. The destiny of this is a picture of the Mehrangarh Fort in Rajasthan, 15th century fort, and if you actually land in Jodhpur, it's a military base which is in the northwest of India. It's a very stark, with the iconic fort, and if you remember, a large part of Dark Knight Rises was shot in this fort. So going to be so this is the older part of the town, Jodhpur. This is the clock tower. The story is about and what they do, the practices, how they live their lives, and how their practices have actually transformed to policy, right? And what we see, what's actually today as we see them. So that's just to give you a picture of the physical map. The other is literally the street map. So Rajasthan, I'm sorry. So that is Rajasthan. That's like the northwest of India. And where I come from is here. That's like the southernmost part of India, which is southeast of India, which is the coast. So for me, when I actually moved from Madras or Chennai, as it's known, was quite different experience. The only so I found it was culturally very different from me. It was a culture shock, and in India, every state, I would think it's a little bit like, if I can use the analogy of Europe, I think it's like every state is a country, so there are different cultures, there are different languages. The moment you cross one boundary, it's somebody else. The culture is different, and it's in diversity. So that's how it is. And this, of course, a bus stop in India. We still have, on the street, but this is a tip that you could witness, God forbid. So this is a picture of Jodhpur and Rajasthan. So that's the population. So it's extreme weathers, anything from 0 in temperatures. And the thing that would actually come to my mind is tourism. So if you actually check out India, the state thrives completely on tourism. You can see these colorful turns, it's vibrant, the colors coming from the south, it's quite shocking. Right? So, and of course, picture, let me just go back to this. So it's just to show you that you can see the Thar desert. This is only from a place called Jaisalmer. So the Bishnoi population, actually there are very few people there's really no solid work in terms of noise, but there is a scholar called, so the figure of population is about 0.55 million is from Pankaj Jain, because when I spoke to the census department in Jaipur sometime last week, they were very clear. They said we do not variations that you have in society. So in India you have different castes, different communities. So they don't have an actual number except for is not helpful now. So the Bishnois are actually great, because what we hear of tree huggers is these are the original from Jodhpur, and of course it was interesting because every time a woman is married and comes into watering the plant, why and how do we position these stories? How are these stories posited? How do we actually place them? I found interesting when I looked at the RCC, when I walk up to the Munchner-Fright barn, when I walk to Mensa, and then have the giant man. You know, you have this man. Fortunately, RCC is the side of pan, it's on the same side, and then you have man. So how do we position ourselves? So why is this story important? Is it important because is it the maybe? But I would also, from the belief that in every corner of the earth, or transit through, there are unique and important visions of the relationship between human culture and the natural world. There are several cultural practices and expressions that inform the methodologies and purposes of eco-criticism in specific regions. My purpose is to welcome hitherto voices muffled for various reasons to the international conversation about who we are as a species and how best to understand our presence on this beautiful and troubled planet. So I think it's important. And also, of course, so going back to the story of the Bishnois. So who are the Bishnois and how did they actually enter India? So sometime, maybe about 3,000 years ago, there was an original tribe called the Beals who lived in the northwest region of India. 3,000 years ago, a large number, hundreds of the West Asia and Central Asia moved into the northwest of India. So the climate then was not very different from what it was now. So that's the northwest. So this is how they moved in. But what happened was there was a dramatic, it was distinct at that point in time because it was still very green. And they had a particular tree called tree, which I'll talk about a little later. So when they moved in, and they had, because of the cattle they had, slowly what happened was a large amount of that vegetation was, it was destroyed. And the Beals tried fighting these people, these invaders from the northwest, and they called themselves the Marwars. But then they had superior weapons, and the Beals had to just lose the battle, and then they left the place. So the present people who actually occupied Jodhpur, now in fact there's also a claim going on that they want this land to be called the land of the Marwars, are the Marwars. Right? In around 1485, there was a child who was born, and the parents, where they lived, and they believed that the child had an uncommon connect to nature, and they named this child Jamboji. When Jamboji, when he was about 25 years old, there was a drought in the region. For 8 consecutive foliage was gone with cattle. They also had other animals, antelopes, they had black bucks. And the animals, because they had to survive, but then it didn't help. At one point, everybody left the village, large number of people. So there's a lot of migrants and then who moved out of the region. His family stayed on because food to last. But then he prescribed 29 that he prescribed. Important. Spreading hunt basically forbidden, and trees could not be felled at all, in that part of the region. And then this went on for some time, and till his death in 1536. Decide where he is. Very often is we say Bishnois are named after God Vishnu. It's not so. They were called Bishnois because it was 20 plus 9, Bish plus 9. So they were called the Bishnois. In a place, 7 generations, was a king in Jodhpur who wanted to build a palace for himself called Abhay the king. A lot of lime kilns, fire, they to burn the lime kilns. The soldiers set out and they saw this little village which was completely green, and the soldiers came into charge to cut. And there was a bishop. This is a sacred space, and then you can't cut because by the injunction. Soldiers would pay they didn't pay any heed, and then her little daughters, they came to protect the tree. You still have a picture of the soldier trying to, chop off the tree. Chopped off the heads, and that's what Amrita Devi is supposed to have said before she 1731 AD, and this method so this and that's the Amrita Devi memorial that you would still find today in Jodhpur with the names of people who gave up their lives. So they were the original tree huggers way before the Chip. So that's a picture of the Kejarli tree, and it may seem a little simplistic, but then it's called the wish fulfillment because they believe that every part of the tree, but the vegetable is actually a delicacy in Jodhpur. If you in hotel, it's called bean. The Bishnois are not a mainstream Hindu community, and the Hindus believe that you are supposed to cremate the dead. They don't bury the dead, and it's considered taboo even to bury the dead because they say that the soul will not, the soul of the person who's not actually gain fulfillment after death. But the Bishnois that then They don't, so they bury the dead. And this tree, the massacre, and it's interesting because the tree itself, emerges as a symbol of political resistance. So you have the Bishnois, and then you have them telling the king, stop this. Also have water conservation, local water conservation techniques that they practice now. So if you went to a Bishnoi household, you'll find that they have these little Jodhpur in dig ponds, but it's only for wildlife. So they don't use for wildlife. And the other thing is a community pond. So every year the Bishnois actually celebrate to commemorate the other things come into place. One thing what they do is the community gets to build a pond. So you have men and women who gather to, and then the women actually carrying the soil. So they have these huge ponds which are created in political memory, where they, the drought which has affected them at one point, it's transferred. So the transferred memory, and every person who attempts is asked to bring a bag of millet or wheat, and that's once again for the wildlife. So, they actually store over a year, and then they keep collecting the grains. Actually took so this is the black buck, which is to believe that the guru is supposed to be an incarnation of the deer. So that's why I think they guard it fiercely. Bull, Indian bustard. This is the nilgai, which is also the blue bull as it is called, and this is the spot. So there's a little poem that I found on the one of the vowel. Hunting down the gazelle. Animals. This anywhere else actually feed. Wounded gazelle, black buck. Because it can be like, if you see the little nervous, that's an intern of mine, a little nervous to go near the peacock. I mean, you don't want to. On the other hand, because they're quite gentle, it's not so difficult. Bollywood and Bishnoi actually get. This guy here is a actor called Salman Khan. Jodhpur, along. So, story because the king actually hosted them, and the king of Rajasthan, the king of hosted them, and they had a travel agent who was taking them on the tour, and this travel guy said, just go get the animals and you can have them for meat, you can have them for dinner. So what they did was, when they were actually, he shot down 2 black men, and the Bishnois came out listening to the bullet sounds, and then the whole thing was like a Bollywood film because this. And then this whole thing became political. I mean, it says poaching is banned. So this guy, Salman Khan, being arrested, and then the Bishnois are actually protected. So it's also very layered. I'll come to that a little later. International headlines. The New York Times and to pray, you know. So for the first, actually, is hitting international news, and that's huge. And I think one of the papers, Tribune in India, called Salman Khan. So this, of course, this is much later. And guy made actually. So, interestingly, in the 29 injunctions, opium and alcohol is banned. Great opium tea in Jodhpur. So please do visit. I'll take you to those stalls because it's for the first time. Was made. He's a public figure, and then there's this going on because he's not really served his term. It's like gone up to the Sessions Court, it's gone to the High Court, now it's in the Supreme Court. The whole of India is waiting for this judgment because it's pretty crucial. We don't know what the take would be. Very interesting. So what is also interesting is the fact that the power of the voice in the state is, and of course they have their own wildlife protection group in 1975, and anybody was allowed to contribute. But the Great Indian Bar after request, the government of India also released a on the caged tree, which is have an award have it now. Now this is a statue. He was killed by poachers when he tried to protect a gazelle, and his whole thing now. So you Ganga, his name is Bishnoi, and he's actually a clerk with the High Court. After the meeting of the annual meeting that they have, so when they go up to build the community meeting, there, Rajasthan, 2010. There's an anti-plastic ban. You can't use plastic. So if you go to a shop, what you'll get? It's crude, but you won't get a colorful stick. Right? You get sorry. I'm sorry. So for the first time, you actually have religious doing the campaign for plastic community. So how do I mean? What I want to tell you is that I'm an out. You know, I'm not from the community. I am from the country. A community which which is not a mainstream, it's a mainstream community, but then it's very different from, Jodhpur is a city, so that's urban, and this is extremely rural, and it's not too far from where I live. It's about a half-hour drive, right? So it was quite a culture shock for me. I did like what my takeaway was the issue between communities you have. That several of the which is solid. That's something that is like a policy, like an act. That's something that's rare in India. People are suffering, then you have somebody else helping them, but then that's all you hear about. You hear the voice, but then it's really not, it's muffled. How powerful is the voice? Is there something that is concrete that's actually that you get out of it? So that's impressive for me. Limitations. Questions, because I am. So if I look at it with a certain amount actually happening, it's not necessarily, no, nobody's saying that. The villages, because they are in mainstream positions. Suppose they move to Chennai, some other place. How do they be translated? Because you have, but then how do you negotiate the you have in a rural memory? How do you translate that memory? So is there a conflict in sustainable practice? So when come around that question, he said. But he says that's a modern, that's what he said, that's modern. It's modern to talk about plastic. It's not so modern to talk about wildlife. If I say, don't kill the deer, this is that's old-fashioned. But if I say, so that was interesting. So the conflict between rural memory and urban. It's pluralistic. It's a pluralistic society. There are so many religions. There are so many, striations. For example, when the arrest happened, the guy was like he was taken to the police station. His brother was there, so he went to parts of Jodhpur and said, "My brother is a Muslim." Right? So he went to the Muslim community and said, "Help protest." So the Bishnois are outside the prison saying, "Arrest Salman Khan." The Muslims arrest the Bishnois saying that you're a Hindu community, therefore he started. Fortunately, Bollywood didn't protest. Then you have animal rights activists protesting outside. Arrest him. There are many things. There's multiple happening. Always complex. So those questions, it's very, very hard to find answers to those questions because that's the way it is. So that's thank you. My name is Tridibhe. She's with Electronic Technique in Paris. He works with this guy called Frank Vogel. Frank Vogel actually made a photo exhibition, Bishnoi, small, about a 2-minute. And that's the other student from some of the photographs, which is run by Adurasa is thank you in their language in Marwari. So thank you so much.